this was texted to me by my good friend. He said, "Why do you think Paul's wording in Romans 11:6 is no longer of works? Why doesn't he just say not of works? Why does he say no longer of works?"
Or
Gonna,
not of works at all. Yeah.
I'm gonna just punt this straight over to
Oh, it's a
Rob.
great, I love that question. Of course, I love Romans. I love Paul. I love the Bible. I love you, Caleb.
I love
Like,
lamp.
I love Yeshua. Okay. Bring it back in here. Great question. The context there, if you remember, I don't have it open in front of me, but Paul is talking about election, and he uses the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal, and Elijah fleeing because Jezebel and Ahab's wicked Canaanite worshiping wife wants she has slaughtered a bunch of the prophets, of the real prophets, and they're out for Elijah. And he believes he's all that's left. I mean, we know that from the account in First Kings. He says, "I alone am left. I've been exceedingly zealous for the Lord. They've killed your prophets. I alone am left. Take my life." Like, he is in such it's it he's in great despair. He's a prophet who's in great despair. And Paul cites this in Romans, and he says, but God kind of gives a correction to Elijah and says, "Look, what are you doing here, Elijah?" Like, you have to go back and read the account. Paul just gives a thumbnail that we know that's what he's talking about. But the punchline Paul brings into his letter to the Romans is, "I have 7,000 who have not bowed their knee to Baal." Why does Elijah need to hear that? Because Elijah thinks he's alone. He thinks that he's all that's left, and he's just like, he's devastated. He's seen horrible things, and he doesn't understand. He knows that he has indeed been zealous for God, but what God tells him is that, "Look, I've got it covered. I'm the one who guards Israel. I'm the one who upholds the remnant in every generation, and I've got 7,000 that you don't know about." And it was a humbling, for me, if I was Elijah, I'd take that as a serious humble pie. It's like, okay, I was a little zealous in my, I'm the only one here. And I think, like Tigger, I'm the only one, you know. That's a lesson that at some point in all our lives, we need to know that we are not alone, that, when we pray, "Our Father who is in heaven," that "our" means something. It means, it doesn't mean just the people I know that are believers. That means I'm part of a whole body of believers that the Spirit has regenerated according to God's sovereignty and wisdom. And I don't know who all those people are. That's what, when the Luther and other reformers talk about kind of the invisible church. I mean, that's kind of what that is. We can't determine who is and who is not belong. But Paul brings this up because he, as just an example, he could probably bring a whole bunch of examples from Tanakh, but he says, "Look, these people are there," he says, "because God says, I have kept 7,000 for myself." Why does Paul need to say that? He wants people to recognize Elijah was zealous slightly for the wrong thing and thinking he was alone. But the bigger point is that God preserves his people, and they're at it's his sovereign election that determines who those people are, and it's his sovereign power to preserve them through the most difficult of times. And that even one of his top major best prophets, one of the prophets that actually appeared with Moses at the Transfiguration. So Elijah's no light dude, right? But even he was blind to see the scope of election. And Paul brings that because he says, look, if this is true here, it's not based on those people's works. And so the "no longer works" phrase means it's a corrective statement for those who believe it is of works. Like, in other words, if I go and I'm like, yeah, I believe you have to, yeah, we're in by covenant. Even if I took the E.P. Sanders covenantal nomism and said, okay, yeah, I belong because I'm flesh and blood Israel, but I have to do works to maintain my membership. I disagree with that viewpoint. Paul would say, yeah, but that's not it. You don't maintain your position, because even Israel in disobedience is still under the covenant.
Continue listening to this conversation by clicking the full show link on the left side of your screen, or check out the video on the right that YouTube thinks you'll like. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you never miss content from Messiah Matters.